Who was here who was in Canmore a couple of years ago when I talked about AI? So we had the training wheels on back then. Like, we were just getting out the gate and had no idea the fire hose of change that we were about to face. So my goal here is to really kind of help you, or at least share with you, some of my insights and learnings around how to navigate this landscape, but also how to sell AI as a tool, which I think is important. It's just something that we've been doing. We don't necessarily sell AI as a tool, but we sell it as an education service, in our business, in the consulting business. So let's talk about MIT. Everybody's been talking about this study, so let's talk about it. The Gen A divide, state of AI in business in 2025. 95% of enterprise generative AI pilot programs are failing to achieve rapid revenue acceleration, delivering little to no impact on P&L. In fact, only 5% of AI pilot programs achieve rapid revenue acceleration. Who here is even surprised at these numbers? Right? Nobody. None of us, right? Because here's what I hear. I'm talking a major corporation. I won't tell you which one, but let's say they've got 300 offices. They say, yeah, we've got an AI mandate. And I go, what is it? They go, use it. That's it. It's up to us in our departments to figure out how we can apply it and huddle with leadership and have a chat about how we're going to do this. And that's the level of leadership with literally a multi-billion-dollar company. And so it's kind of like the beginning days of social media when I'd ask somebody, so you've got this brand you've built for 50 years, who's manning your Twitter account? And they say, oh, our intern. They've had 3 years of life experience in the workforce, and we've let them run at it with our brand. And that kind of reminds me of the same thing, right? I'm kind of getting flashbacks of this where people don't realize the power of these tools. So tools don't lead. Tools aren't a strategy. Mindset leads. Right? Mindset is what leads from a business perspective. So we're moving from pipelines and switches, right? If we think about it from a technical, it's a boxes, switches, routers, APIs, to actually neural networks. Right? This is what we're training. We're training neural networks in our business, right? We hear about this workshop that's being done by Manoj tomorrow, and if I could, I would attend it. But I'd suggest you do, because it's a really interesting idea of actually building a digital neural network which actually represents you. But corporations are now becoming this. So this is the switch we're making when we're helping our clients, we're working with our partners. So an AI tool user mindset. So someone who uses tools, how do they think? Well, they seek predictable, repeatable outcomes. Right? I had someone in an audience say, yeah, Copilot made me cry. And I'm like, why? She goes, because every time I went in, I was so frustrated, I had to get this thing done, and I did the right thing once, and I went back and did the same prompt, and it did something different. And I went back and it did something different. And she goes, it's driving me crazy because we're so used to pressing a button on a piece of software and getting the same output. But it doesn't work that way, right? Seeks or gets frustrated when the output varies, right? Approaches AI like Excel or CRM, click and execute mentality, right? This is what it's about. Looks for plug-and-play solutions. Well, can't you just build something that automatically runs my business for me? That must be easy, right? Can't you guys just put the AI in my business? Gives up quickly when results vary. So this is where as soon as someone hits a barrier, they're like, yeah, I used it for a while and I stopped using it, right? So this is the AI tool user mindset. Now, the AI mindset embraces ambiguity and variation in outputs. They understand that it's a partnership and an iteration, not a single output every time. Iterates through prompting, feedback, and collaboration, right? Acts as a creative director, not a passive consumer of artificial intelligence generated content, for instance. Seeks partnership over perfection, right? Progress and growth over a final state. And accepts that AI is probabilistic, not deterministic as a tool. So this is a real shift in how we're using it. Claudia, who works with me, who heads up our sales playbook development side of our business, who's very talented with the AI use, she calls herself neurospicy. And she says, as a neurospicy person, she goes, I kind of like the variety of answers. I like debating with it. I like the fact that I'm never sure what's going to come out and that it can work with me and I can work with it. It thinks a lot like me. And she's just having a hoot with it. And so it's really interesting, that kind of outlook. So MSPs are not ready to lead, at least statistically, and this data comes from OpenText's recent survey with MSPs. This was in the context of AI within cybersecurity largely, so maybe not with Copilot, but I thought this was interesting, is that 92% report AI-driven business growth, and in 2024, approximately 90% said they were ready to guide their customers on AI deployment, and then this year they said, shoot, maybe not. I'm only 50% ready to drive this today. Part of it's the speed of change. Part of it is the fact that we didn't get the output we were looking for in the first try, and we got burnt a little bit, but it's hard to keep up. So what happened? This is my feeling on artificial intelligence for sales organizations and entrepreneurs, is everybody is getting ready to get ready. I did a keynote for a major insurance company. They're global. Their leaders were, let's do this AI thing, Shane. I spent 2 hours with their team. I got them fired up. We were supposed to do sessions afterwards to implement with their team. We're not ready to do the implementation sessions. We've got to talk to the policy team. We've got to talk to our I team. We've got to weigh what's happening in the marketplace. We've got to look at this. We've got to build these playbooks first. And now, they said, we're kind of ready. And I said, we have to start again, right? Right from the beginning, because everything I shared with you guys has changed. And it's the ability to start manageably, but start today, right? And that's what most organizations aren't doing. This is what your clients are doing in a lot of cases. So the AI tool user expects precision. The AI mindset leader expects evolution, right? And that's the thought process we want to look at. So let's talk about AI in sales. AI is now replacing and augmenting. So this study was done by Allego, and it wasn't like what's going to happen, but what's in your roadmap as a major corporation. Here's what people are saying. 41% of companies expect 5 to 25% of sales roles to be replaced by AI in the next 24 months. And 54% expect 26 to 75% of roles to be automated. And AI is being used for everything from lead scoring to sales intelligence to conversation analysis today within sales organizations. And I want to look at this sort of first figure. They expect 5 to 25% of sales roles to be replaced by AI. And here's what I'm hearing from senior sales leaders in major corporations is, we're not going to fire people, but salespeople turnover, right? Who's ever had a salesperson quit? Anybody? Right, just a few of us. So when they leave, I'm going to hire AI instead. That's essentially it. I'm going to figure a way to drive this with AI, right? On the other side, within existing organizations, within my team, up to 75% of the things they do today or were doing just a few months ago can be done by AI, right? So anything that's a pattern in sales, making a template, adapting it for a certain ICP, cutting it and pasting it over here, entering information on the CRM, determining if it's an A, B, or C client, picking cadence 1, 2, or 3 with them, iterating it a bit, that all can be done by AI. So my question to sales professionals and even entrepreneurs is, okay, so now you've got another 50 to 26 to 75% of your time available. What are you doing? What are you doing to amp your game up and be competitive? And this is the dichotomy, is as we have to be more tech savvy, our differentiator is some of these things that Glynis talked about this morning, that some of our other speakers talked about, which is our emotional intelligence, our people skills, our connecting skills. Right? And AI still needs human inputs or it stops growing. So even our humanity being fed into our corporate AIs continually is what's actually going to keep it sharp. So this is the new sales competency map, or at least it was in 2024. And I won't go through this whole thing, but traditionally, sales mastery and sales process and sales methodology is all you needed to know as a sales leader and a sales professional. But today, your ticket to the sales conference, not even like to win, is you have some other bare minimums. You've got to get good virtual communications, right? Whether it's a Zoom meeting or understanding how to communicate on each platform. We have to be great at social networking, both online and offline, right? We've got to have good virtual soft skills. So we're not going to take what worked in email and try to send it out as a LinkedIn message, because the context is different, the etiquette's different. Understanding that what I send through a WhatsApp text is very different than what I would send in an email as well. So each platform has its own etiquette. Do I understand how to move through these and effectively communicate and connect? And then, of course, right brain selling, which I just talked about a minute ago, is these creative leadership, human, giving, innovative, breaking the rules type skills that we're going to do better than AI, which is where our unfair advantage is going to come when it's coupled with AI. So the last one is TQ, which is technology intelligence, our technology fluency. It is not enough for our sales team to just be able to pick up the phone and go visit people and send emails. They have to be fluent in technology, especially if we're selling technology. We've got to be our people have to be our own best case example of how to embed AI in a sales organization and succeed. And in the past, AI was an adjunct to TQ. But today, we've moved from using AI to being an agentic partner with AI. So what I'm seeing in the sales process, now I've muddied this thing up, is that it's pervasive in everything here. AI exists either from an ambient perspective in all these places, or we're actually using it as a tool within all these things to get better at selling, to help us virtually communicate, to network socially, to even helping me get better at human stuff, which I'll talk about. And we're now moving from, we are still human resource managers, but each of us is also an AI resource manager. So Manoj helps you build your second brain, that's what I call it, but your clone. Then you got an email writer, then you got something that prospects for you, then something that also analyzes your contracts for you. And all these tools are actually AI tools that we're managing on a daily basis to make sure with human guardrails, that they behave and do what they're supposed to do. So core principles of the AI mindset. Number one, iteration over perfection. Embrace the unpredictable. Teach the tool to teach you. Are you operating on a loop with your tool? So I'll build an AI assistant. It does what it's supposed to do the first time. The second time, it doesn't. I argue with it for 20 minutes. I finally get the output I want. Then I ask it, what 3 to 5 lines do I need to add to your system prompt so you give me this output the first time? Then it'll tell me. Then I'll drop that into the guts of the AI assistant, and actually it'll iteratively help me improve itself. Right? So that's interesting. It's like, I don't know how to get my AI work. Well, did you ask it how to get it to work? Well, I never thought about that. And so this is a skill set, right? Now, many of us are like, yeah, I get this. I do this all the time. That's fine. But a lot of our customers don't get this. They quit. Oh, this thing you built me doesn't work. Start fast. Start rough, right? We often will take like training an AI assistant to write emails for you like you. We'll start off with throwing like 3 emails you've written in your job description. And it'll already write 300% better than out of the box. And then you can get deeper and add nuance, like style writing guides and rules and templates and you name it, till it actually writes like your best you all the time, right? Unattached teachability. So I thought I was like totally open to learning, and then when they brought ChatGPT 5 out and messed up all my AI assistants and I had to start learning how to prompt from scratch again, I was pissed. I was like, maybe I just won't use this anymore. And then I realized I didn't want my proposals to take 3 hours to write like they used to, right? So you have to be willing to just abandon what you know to move to where you want to go because things change so quickly. And then partner with the machine. Create a human AI loop, which I've already talked about. So this is some of the AI mindset. So this is the roadmap of adoption, at least I see with a lot of people. This is how I would build a moat around my customers. And I mentioned this yesterday a little bit, is that if I just give my client Copilot and tell them to go at it, obviously there's data risks, but also there's a good chance they suck at prompting. They don't understand how to connect their teams to pull the transcripts into something to actually build proper custom meetings notes and then add it to their CRM. They're not going to figure that out. It's just a glorified search bar to them at this point. Someone else comes along and shows them the power of other tools outside of that and actually holds their hand and gets some ROI for them. And we've lost them as the trusted AI advisor. We're no longer that advisor. Someone else is. And they can chip away at our wallet share and our mind share. And so one of the first places to start is just basic AI literacy. Like, what are best practices on prompting? You know, can I build some prompt libraries in each area of discipline of my clients' businesses that I can share with them off the shelf, for instance? That's a good start. Then once we get someone there and when they actually start to see a little bit of ROI from the way we've helped them, then we move into actually getting them to build custom AI assistants. So hey, if you do the same prompt 3 times a day, you should build an assistant to do that for you that does it better than prompting out of the box so you can speed the process up. And eventually, hey, imagine if you got 5 or 6 AI assistants and you connect them together. What is that? That's an agent, right? Multiple assistants working together to drive a process within your business, still with a few human guardrails, right, within the middle. Then once that's done, then we start to move into agentic AI implementations where we're building platforms for our clients that help them drive their business. And then finally, some serious AI infrastructure scaling, so building and buying true platforms on the other end. And so this is kind of how I think AI adoption is happening for most people. They start off with prompting, they move into assistance, they move into automations. But the first part is you want to be there to start them on this journey. So for me, when we talk about AI, AI can be an Iron Man suit for revenue leaders. And this is the way I present it. And if you like this metaphor, steal it from me. I stole it from Gabe Larson, so no problem. And the way I look at it is everybody's scared about the Terminators coming for their business, right? Automations, right? Competitors that are just jacked up on AI and don't have humans competing. Well, how would I compete with Terminator? I'd go build an Iron Man suit. And that's really what AI is for revenue leaders. So for instance, I give the example of a proposal writer. Let's start with a meeting prep tool. So my meeting prep tool, I put your name and company name on. It goes out and it compares you against my ideal client profile using 7 different criteria and determines if you're an A, B, or C. If you're an A, it's a go, right? Then it writes me 5 to 7 questions to ask you about your business to get you talking about the things that it knows I can help you with. And that's with just cutting and pasting a name in, and yet I've got what used to be 20, 30 minutes of prep time ready for every call. Right? Or maybe the call should have been an email because they're a C-level prospect. All right, and I send them to someone else, right? But the point is, that's one tool. Then the second tool is we get on the call, and I've got a discovery agent tuned to our process, listening to that call that outputs in context what their business drivers are, and then I feed that into my proposal writer, which now customizes a proposal for their needs against what I can offer them. So that process used to take me, preparing, the note-taking, which kind of suck at listening, to be honest. I thought I was good, but once my AI started listening for me, I realized how bad I was and how much stuff I was missing. And then my proposal writer used to take 3 hours to write a proposal. Now it takes 15 minutes. So for every client that goes through that cycle, I'm saving myself conservatively, probably 2 hours. If you have a sales team of 5 or 10 and you multiply that across the team, that's like increasing your head count. Now, if you're wearing that Iron Man suit and your competitor is just as good as you at the people stuff, the sales stuff, they're just as good at targeting, they're just as good at outbound, but they're driving it fully human, you can outscale them, right? Still driving with the humanity, but driving AI efficiencies in it. So, and this is, yesterday Randall talked about this. With AI, I still believe it's important to start with a human spark and finish with a human fingerprint. And what I mean by that is, one of the first things that I'll do, like a good example is my LinkedIn posts. I don't go into my AI and go, write me a LinkedIn post about ChannelNext, upcoming conference or how the conference went, or write me a LinkedIn post about how MSPs can sell better. I'm gonna get a generic output. But instead, if I just pick up the notepad or the voice dictation on my phone, and I just talk to it for like 5 minutes on what I think, based upon my knowledge of the space, you can do to help drive your business. Then I take this very inarticulate, somewhat articulate, poor grammar transcript, and I throw it into my GPT that I trained to write LinkedIn posts like me. And I tell it, hey, just correct the grammar and format this better, but keep the tone and the ethos the same. And then it outputs from my original spark a great post for LinkedIn. Then as a human, I go back in and go, I don't like this, let's add that, let's move that, I'd never say this. It takes me like 30 seconds. I used to sit there and stare at a blank page, right, for minutes or longer, or I'd walk away. Who's ever decided you're gonna write a LinkedIn post and then walked away? Anybody? Right, so this is some of the efficiencies that we can use it for. Now, AI used incorrectly, AI just enables you to do the wrong thing in front of more people fast. Right, so this is like email automation, sending out generic pitches that aren't tuned to your corporate voice or to best practices in outreach, and you load a list of 10,000 people in there and you hit them all. You think you're doing the right thing, but you're just doing the wrong thing in front of more people fast. So that human input, frameworks, and strategy becomes so important. So for me, great AI, especially from a business growth perspective, you need to start with a sales and marketing playbook. Step-by-step process of what makes you successful and best practices, including frameworks and scorecards. And then when you introduce that domain expertise into an AI, it's now rocket fuel for your business. Right? So there is a strategic human best practice piece, Because just to use AI for the sake of AI and automation for the sake of an automation, it's kind of cool, but it doesn't mean you get further ahead. So slow down to speed up. Reps who spend 55% of their time on strategic account planning and 45% on tactical execution boosted win rates by 19%. So what does this really mean? And I love this. When I share this with sales leaders in the room, they actually get a little pissed looking. They like their people to be busy. They want them to make more calls, and now you've told them to slow down. You're not delivering my message. But it's true. If we actually sit back and think strategically, we can unlock these big opportunities. So one of the things I want to start with is my ICP. My ideal client profile is truly the foundation of any sales process. Otherwise, you're just out talking to the wrong people about the wrong solution in the wrong company, right? And so this is an example. So I've got an automated, an AI assistant I built to help people write ICPs. I'll share the link up here. It's kind of a beta version. You can steal it. I took an MSP, which I scrubbed their name from it, obviously, in Windsor, Ontario. And I said, okay, based upon who they are, what they do well, and what's available in that market, what's their ideal client profile? And we based it based upon really, I keep thinking that I'm used to using mine, the 6 major criteria. So industry sector, company size, user count, annual revenue, because that drives a lot of things for opportunity. I'm going to be patient. There we go. Technology adoption potential. Like, what's their mindset? Are they actively open to utilizing technology? Is there an awareness that they're actually wanting to move forward? And then tech maturity and risk awareness. Are they aware of cyber threats and compliance needs? Are they actively seeking risk reduction? And lastly, do I have access to the decision maker? So how would I use something like this with AI? Okay, so part of it is my sales team's calendar should be driven by this. So if somebody, most of their prospects they talk to proactively and where they're networking, they should be in that A zone. That's how I quickly audit their calendar. Are they spending 25 plus hours a week working on A category opportunities? Whether it's doing research, writing a proposal, going to a meeting. So I fed this into Perplexity. I said, I'm in sales for an MSSP based in Windsor, Ontario. You can find my ICP or ideal client profile here, and it's a Google link. You can upload a Word document. My prospect is Windsor Fulfillment. I would like you to do the following 3 steps. Determine if they're an A. Identify their top 10 challenges and opportunities this company have based upon 2024 or newer data that my company's services, insights, software, and knowledge could help them with. And then give me 8 questions I could ask them that would get them talking about these challenges. Because that's what you want to do. You can come in and just tell the client what's wrong, and it'll go one ear or the other. They got filters. If it's me with a little bit of ADHD, I'm going to hear half of what you said, and then I'm going to go, look, a bird. And so that's going to happen. But if you ask me questions and get me talking about my cyber risk or my scaling opportunities, I'm hearing myself tell the story. You're just leading the narration. So what happens here is it gives me strong lead qualification, why this client is actually an A. Then it gives me their top 10 cybersecurity challenges and top 10 business opportunities we can help them with as an MSP. Then it gives me my strategic discovery questions that I should be asking them to unearth those challenges and get the dialogue there so we can actually quantify and make real the risks so they can see the whole map and help them see the cost of not taking action. Right? Who would say that would be helpful if you had this before every call? Right? So that's a rhetorical question, but this is something that is a powerful tool. Right? So part of it is Perplexity is just a tool till I drop a framework in it, which is an ICP framework, right? So then, this is like the next step if you want to do this. I go, hey, can you find me 30 more companies like this in the Windsor area? They don't have to be the same company size or industry, but they should match the risk and opportunity profile. And it spits out 30 companies. And then I can take those 30 companies. Most of these tools aren't good at scraping email addresses or finding people because like LinkedIn and all these guys are really good at gating that. But you got the company name. You got the organization. You got their pain points, what's happening. You drop that into a tool like Zoom Info. It'll enrich the data, give you their phone numbers, their email addresses, who you should be talking with. And now you've got a real rock star list, in my opinion, that you can go after, right? So this is an example. Now, once you like this process, this is kind of an idea of, this is a prompt. I eventually took this prompt and built it into an AI assistant that was standalone. And then I took it and I built it into an automation. Pretty simple one. But what it did is, through Google Sheets, or if they filled a form on our website, it immediately goes to Perplexity within, it used to be Zapier, but now I'm doing it in Make. And it'll actually call to Perplexity, and Perplexity will run this analysis within the tool to see, is this prospect an A, B, or C? If it's a B or C, then we just send a nice hello, thanks a lot for asking, reaching out, let's book a meeting in January kind of thing. If it's an A, it's like, hey, I've got time next Monday. That's the kind of the response. But what it also does is it goes from there and immediately creates a contact within our CRM with their name, all the information, all the Perplexity insights, and that whole output we shared there. So that's just an example of kind of a simple automation, but it started with a good prompt, it turned into an AI assistant, then it moved into an AI automation. And you can think about like this type of journey you could take your clients on. Right? This is kind of the process where we start with baby steps, they start to see ROI, they get educated in the tools, and then we can take them on this journey. So let's talk about something that has nothing to do with AI. One of my, I would call hobbies for many years, is many years ago in my 20s I did Filipino martial arts, and then I do what you do, you have kids, you get busy with career and everything else, and you stop doing it. And then about 5 years ago I decided, hey, I should start doing this thing again. So I started doing it again and training harder. But I was training a lot on my own, I was training a lot with my teacher in the class, but I thought, am I delusional? Like, am I good at this or not? So a tournament was coming up, and I just signed up for it. And I went in. And I actually did better than I thought I would, but I also realized I had bad cardio, and that I had a lot of bruising that I didn't appreciate the next day. And so I took this after the tournament, and I shared it with my team. So I watched the videos, because a guy I know, he shot the videos, which is cool. Recording a fight on a video, I think, is a lot like recording a sales call using Fathom or one of these AI assistants, right? Because you get to see and hear the whole thing, and then you can actually go back and look at it. Because when you're in it, I got the helmet on, I'm seeing through here. I'm not sure when I landed a hit, let alone the 4 he landed and where they came from sometimes, because they were moving fast. And then I watched the video, and through my untrained eye, with my base knowledge, I saw some things I could improve. But then I showed it to my teacher, right, who's got 40 plus years in martial arts, 4 different black belts, and he saw different stuff because he had a better framework. He had a better knowledge base. And so I worked with Fred. He threw me around, he hit me with some sticks a few times, we worked on my footwork, we worked on my cardio. That was April of almost 2 years ago. Recently, here in Alberta, I went in another Filipino martial arts competition, and I placed 3rd in 2 categories. So I thought that was pretty awesome, right? Thank you. And still I realized I had a lot to go on. The interesting thing is that I didn't train for it in the way that I noticed it was coming up, because I was coming up here for a business trip. So I booked myself in. And this is an interesting lesson, is if you train every day, you're always prepared. Right? If you stay in the game every day and you stay loose and you stay in the zone and you're consistently investing in yourself, you don't have to work up to it. You can kind of jump in. I kind of wish I would have trained harder, to be honest. But my point is that the reason why I improved was these videos, the training, the coaching, the focus. But let's think about it from a sales perspective. What if, because I got to train with Fred once a week, but what if I could train with him every day? My question is, what if you and your team had coaching after every call based upon proven best practices customized for you and your business? Every sales call, you got a report saying, here's the 11 things you said were important on your sales calls. Here's how you did on each of them. Here's the money you left on the table. Here's the questions you should have asked. Here's the things you did well. Here's what you need to do for your next call. Right? Who would say you'd get a little better, faster, if after every sales call you had that coaching? So I built one for me. And remember, I've been teaching this for years, and my tool was scoring me a strong 7 out of 10. So even myself, right, cobbler's kid, realized there was a bunch of things. I wasn't listening enough. I wasn't talking about price at the right place. I wasn't connecting enough ROI to my conversations. It was too much what it is and not what it could do. Over a period of 60 days, using my own tool, I went from 7 to 8.5 out of 10. And what's really is, I think it's made me, I've had more improvement in the last, I think, year in my discovery conversations than I did in the previous 5. So who's got an AI note taker you use? All right? So this is how I started kind of on this journey, as I was using Fathom as an AI note taker, and it gave me a great output. But then I started to customize the transcript So I had this pitch. I sat and did a discovery call with a company of India to do a remote keynote for them. I was up against a couple other people. I took, oh, by the way, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll talk about this. Actually, I'll talk about what I did there. So what I did is I took the transcript and I just dropped it in, and I dropped in my generic proposal. And I said, based upon what this person, this organization says very important to them and their values and their business outcomes, I want you to take my proposal and customize me an executive summary that shows them how I can deliver that. And it literally spit it out instantly. I thought I'd have to edit it, because usually I do, and I read it and I thought, good, this is better. I missed that. This is fantastic. And I took this, put it in the executive summary in front of the meeting, sent it off with my regular proposal. They decided to go with me. I asked them, what made you go with us? He said, we really felt like you listened to us. I kind of felt guilty at that point, because I realized my AI listened really well. But from this perspective, this is what kind of got me in the journey of like, okay, what could I do here to actually build assistance and tools around this kind of thinking? So this discovery framework is really 11 things that I think really go into a great discovery call. So I've got this framework. I fed this framework in best practices along with transcripts of some of my best calls, and then an output coaching sheet that I would like it to look like. All right? Dropped it in, and I built in ChatGPT first, but then I have a lot of people who complain about Copilot. Copilot this, Copilot that, so I thought, well, let me build one in Copilot. So with Copilot Pro, I went and built an agent. Works fantastic, using the exact same prompts and knowledge base. So uploaded some prompts on what it does, how it does it. I uploaded these outputs, or these knowledge base, from transcripts to my best practices to my manual on how to run great meetings. And then, this is the output. So if I fed a transcript in, here's what it told me after every meeting. Hey, lead with rapport, frame the call, start future first. It gives me a score on each one. Then it tells me what went well, what didn't go well, and what I can do to improve my next session. Right? So I gave this tool to some sales leaders that work with me. One of them has a very large sales team, and every month she listens to 2 or 3 of their calls, or even their Fathom recordings, and goes through the transcripts and whatnot. And so she went from prepping up to 2 hours per coaching session per month per person, down to literally 20 minutes. Right? And she felt she was getting better coaching out of it. Right? So here's another quick automation. So with Fathom now, after my sales calls, that transcript goes directly to my GPT I built to evaluate calls. That GPT then sends me an email with this report telling me how it went. And then it would, if I had a coach, I'm the coach, but it drops it into a folder on that client on how that call went and what I could do better. Right? So that's a really, within the Copilot ecosystem, that's a really easy automation, right? You switch Google Docs for obviously a Word doc and OneDrive, and it's a simple connector, right, this process, but you could literally automate this out of Teams and now have this concentric coaching loop. But also imagine having this database in a folder within Teams of all these successful sales calls that you can then template and start to create content and training out of them. So here's a good prompt. And I think Glynis, I remember you responding, I think last time I shared it, and I can't remember, maybe, yeah, you did. You were like, that's a good, have you used it? Yeah, and this is really fun to do, is after any meeting, it doesn't have to be a sales meeting, is I throw in, hey, you're a certified DISC personality coach who specializes in sales coaching. So I did this right in Copilot, I tested it with ChatGPT, review this transcript and identify their DISC profile, and then tell me how I can better communicate and sell to this person, both in conversations and email. Because sometimes I get on a call and I think I know what's going on, but I feel like there's some friction. They're not quite there with me, it doesn't go the way I think. I'm not able to gel with them. I can't quite put my finger on it. Why? And many times it's, oh, I'm talking too much, right? I didn't get detail-oriented enough. Oh, I got too personal, and this person doesn't get personal. And so it allows me to adjust for sometimes you can't fix it in the real time, but on your next meeting or your next email, you can adjust your writing style, your sales style, or even what goes into your proposal based upon their personality profile. So here's some custom GPTs, or we call them agents, of course, within the Microsoft system. Here's some that are really low-hanging fruit that, building them can do some cool stuff. So an email response GPT. So take emails from, 10 minutes to 60 seconds. You gotta, I've had like some difficult partners in business, not like internal, but external. And I wanna, really let them have it, because they've done some things I don't like. And I can rant my phone I'm sure my neighbors are like, man, that guy's strange. But I can rant in my phone and tell them what's up, and then I can drop it into my email writer and say, make this empathetic and balanced. And it'll write in my tone of voice, because I've got my style writing guide, but it spits out this real, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I send it off to them, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why, I can see your point of view, and let's talk about this, let's make this better. And I'm like, man, if I sent what I wanted to, we wouldn't have made it better. It would have been a lot worse fast, right? So email responses, proposal writer. So I talked about this, from 3 hours to about 35 minutes, if I'm realistic. Like, I'd like to say 15, and sometimes it comes out well-baked, but sometimes I have to rewrite stuff. Sometimes I want to make it look pretty and use their company colors when I send it out. So actually, honestly, the formatting, it takes more time than the actual proposal writing tool. Custom value proposition GPT. Take your value proposition, put it in a GPT, take a principles of what a great value proposition is, and then whenever you're going to go meet a new client, take that perplexity research that you've done on them, stick it in there and say, how should I communicate my value proposition in the context of this company? And then it'll write it for you, right? So content writing on your voice, 30 plus hours time saving for me per month. Julian talked about this content atomization concept, where you take one big video, you feed it into a system, it breaks it up into 20 or 30 small videos, it writes you a whole bunch of blog posts, it creates a bunch of images and everything like that. I built one for me. It's kind of duct tape and baling wire version of what Julian's talking about, but it works. But this tool allows me to take a talk like this, which I'm recording here, and then it allows me to now take it and turn it into probably 50 pieces of content across the internet, almost all driven by AI, right? And if you want to get found by AI search, you have to atomize your content, and it has to live all over the internet, because AI looks at where are all the places of authority that your brand is talking or being talked about. And that's what often drives a lot of whether you show up in ChatGPT search. So objection sparring, stick all your objections and all the mean things those customers said to you, put them in a GPT with the best responses, and then test yourself on it. Right? Turn on the audio version of Copilot or ChatGPT and actually go back and forth with it on how to answer those questions. Your ICP GPT, so forensic lead generation and qualifications, we've talked about that. I've got one that just will analyze a client, tell me if they're qualified from that perspective. I actually use my ICP GPT as well. I'll feed my proposals in and say, how well written is this for my ideal client profile and persona? Does this really speak to them? Well, no, actually it doesn't, and you should change this. And it gives me some really nice feedback. And then your coaching GPT, so rapid sales improvement. And this is kind of what we talked about with the Discovery Call Coach. So these are some of the, from a sales and revenue perspective, easy to build stuff where you could be now managing, you've got 5 assistants working with you. And for me, the time savings, the efficiency savings, the increased closing rate for me and our clients that have been willing to experiment with this and actually go the journey. A lot of them go halfway and then stop, which, and you got to wait. They'll eventually come back if you started them on the journey. But it is something that it takes some getting used to actually kind of loosen the reins. Building the competitive moat. So I see this as a competitive moat, that we need to be AI enablers first. We need to get people excited. We need to show them some quick results, quick wins. We do get too complicated. That comment was made earlier. We overcomplicate things, right? Because all the things we know and think they should know, but do you have an email writer that writes like you? Or are you into ChatGPT and you're writing like ChatGPT? Oh, it's writing like me. Yeah, okay, good point. So let's train it on some of your old emails. Let's get some frameworks and best practices in here for you so you can write an email in a minute instead of 10. Let's start with that, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. Or you got a standard proposal that everybody's rewriting and you want them to stick to it. Let's build one that your team can ship, right? So build demand through education and enablement, both internally and externally. Start with foundational AI literacy. So quick wins, easy to deploy solutions, basic agents, coaching, proprietary GPT assistance, and encapsulating institutional knowledge. So this is a really powerful one. Is to build that competitive moat, when we start helping people, for instance, take and build those second brains inside their company. So they've got an executive who's got insights, knowledge, and experience, who's about to retire, but I can take their methodologies, their insights, their rules of business, how to make decisions, all that type of stuff, and I build it into an AI assistant that the rest of the team can access, and then connect a bunch of them. We now unlock all kinds of institutional knowledge, which is stuck between people's ears, or they're stuck in file folders somewhere. Right? And so if you do that for a client, all of a sudden, and you built that for them, they're not going to go and say, who else can help me with my AI? They're going to say, wow, you've built me proprietary systems that are driving my business. Let's do some more. Automated workflows, embedding AI tools in business process, and then proactive management and evolution led by the MSP. So versus waiting for them to email you and go, what's next? It's, let's have a quarterly business review where we do a what's next meeting for you guys. And each quarter I sit down and give you a little download on how AI's evolved, what you guys are doing well, how you could use it better, and what I think your next step is, right? And we start leading that process through QBRs as well as education. So that's my kind of map of how to build that moat. What I'm seeing is working. I got so much more I'd love to talk about from an AI perspective.